You are listening to The Art of Sales. Everyone sells every day, and this is your source for conversational, real-world sales and prospecting methods that you are comfortable using and that get results. You'll help people buy instead of pushing them into being sold. Here's your host, Art Sobczak.
Hi again and welcome. So let me start out by first telling you what you need to do. Oh, wait a minute. Stop. What did you just feel when you heard that? The normal reaction is a little bit of resistance. Most people want to do what they want to do, not what someone tells them to do. And that is a fundamental principle of sales and human interaction. Yet so many salespeople screw it up every day, and that's part of the reason why sales has kind of a bad image or impression on a lot of people. So that's what we're going to discuss today. Now, as I mentioned in the last episode, which was the first episode, actually, I'm going to take the first few shows and go through some of my fundamental sales beliefs that, again, are the foundation for pretty much all sales and prospecting. And then as time goes on together, I'm going to build on those principles and others, and more specifically, all parts of the sales and prospecting call and process. And we're going to go really deep into all parts of that. So we've got a ton of material, and I plan on being here a long time. I read something the other day that said most podcasts don't make it past 10 episodes. Well, I already have about the first 30 planned out here, okay? So you and I are going to invest a lot of time together. All right, let's get back to the way I started out. So think about the last time someone forced their feelings upon you by making a recommendation about what you should do. A recommendation that wasn't based upon anything that you wanted, but rather what they felt that you should do or think. For example, take the person who says, "Oh, you should go see this movie." Or someone who gives you an article of clothing, maybe a gift, well-intentioned, but you think it's hideous, like a tie or a scarf or something, and they expect you to wear it. Or the assertive person who goes even further by handing you a book and says, "Oh, here, you've got to read this. This is great." Now, again, granted, these recommendations are well-intentioned for the most part, and some might be on target, but many cause us to, smile politely, and we're thinking, how could I tell this person I wouldn't even waste my time reading a review of that movie, let alone watching it, right? Now, this happens to all of us, and it's annoying, and sometimes it's a little embarrassing. And if realize it or not, most of us are even guilty of it. Now, in the sales world, even more so. You see, every time that we pitch our products or services without knowing precisely what the other person is likely interested in, we are imposing our feelings on them. The most productive and positive approach to take instead is to ask questions first. And this has several benefits to us. So let me go through these. Now, first, by asking questions first, it ensures they're interested in what we have before we suggest it. Also, number two, it tells us specifically where we should focus our recommendations so they have the greatest chance of being accepted or agreed to. And three, it moves the person into this positive, receptive, even desirous frame of mind so that when they hear your suggestion, they're going to be viewing it through the lenses of problems or desires that we've discussed with them and they're thinking about. Let me illustrate a simple situation that we've probably all likely experienced. And as I go through this, be thinking about the psychology and the principles at work and how maybe you could apply these to your own sales situations or really any interaction. All right, so here's the first scenario. maybe around 10:30 in the morning, a supervisor walks over to a sales rep and says, "Hey, I know the best Chinese restaurants in town, and there's one that just opened up a few miles from here. Man, the Kung Pao chicken is so spicy, it makes your eyeballs sweat. I've got some reservations for lunch. Let's go there." And the sales rep looks up and kind of smiles politely, and his stomach is already starting to feel like the inside of a furnace, because Chinese food not only makes him gag, but anything spicier than ketchup kind of burns his tongue. So what happened there? Well, obviously that was a person who was just imposing their feelings on somebody else. So let's look at a different scenario. So two different people this time. So the first one goes over to the other and says, "Hey, got any plans for lunch yet?" The person replies, No, not yet." "Are you up for going out somewhere?" "Yeah, sure." "Great. What are you hungry for?" I don't know. Anything." "You like Chinese?" "Yeah, it doesn't sound too bad." "What do you normally like to get?" "Well, I like most of it. Yeah, variety." "You like spicy dishes?" "Yeah." "Oh, I do too. Spicier the better for me. How about you?" Person says, "Well, I get extra chili oil sometimes." "Oh yeah, me too. How about Kung Pao chicken?" "Oh, I love Kung Pao chicken." "Well, let me tell you about a place that just opened up that I think you'll just love. The reviews so far have not only called it the best Chinese place in town, but I can personally vouch for that Kung Pao chicken, man. It's so deliciously hot, it's going to make the back of your eyeballs sweat, man. And the brown sauce, it's to die for." "Oh, wow, sounds great." Now, obviously I made that up, but notice at any point in the questioning, the person who asked the questions might have gotten a response that would have suggested that the person either wasn't hungry or wasn't available for lunch or didn't like Chinese or didn't like spicy food or maybe had another preference. And based on all those responses, the questioner could have either given up before making a pitch that really would have no shot, right? Or could have gone with the flow and readjusted, making a recommendation on the quality of the restaurant as opposed to the spicy part of it, if that wasn't of interest. Or worse, if the person said they didn't like spicy food, right? Now, so what in the world does this have to do with you and selling and prospecting? Well, everything. Because when you use the same principles that I just illustrated here with this Chinese food example, then you're really setting up the foundation for a great sales situation. So let me give you an action item so you can put this into practice. So first, before a call, determine what action you'd like someone to take. So again, using the restaurant example, that person wanted the other person to go to the Chinese restaurant with them. So in your case, that it could be setting up an appointment with somebody who'd be interested in your product or service, getting them to attend a webinar, action-oriented. Okay, I call this your primary objective. Then what you want to do is you want to work backwards. And we want to prepare our questions and then possible responses. So think about, you start out and reverse engineer this, because we start out by thinking, okay, what do I want someone to do? And in order for them to do that, what do they need to be thinking and what do I need to know about them? So then we create our questions. Start with general questions and then transition into more specific questions. And then once you've moved somebody emotionally into that frame of mind that you're looking for and you've gotten the information you need, then you can make your recommendation. And by the way, we'll have many episodes about this. I call them recommendations, not pitches or presentations, because what always has to come before a recommendation? That's right, information. So do this exercise, come up with some great questions, then make your recommendations, and you'll find more people who are accepting them. All right, it is now time for our regular feature.
Never way, you'll never feel what they say it's the art of the sales quote of the day.
That's right, the quote of the day. Now, this is a quote that I've repeated over 1,000 times in training workshops, especially when we're talking about rejection. And here it is. It's from Eleanor Roosevelt, and it's this: no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Think about that. Just like no one can stress you out, and no one can really make you think anything unless you allow them to. So no single situation can make you feel rejected unless you allow yourself to. And again, we're going to have future episodes also on dealing with resistance and that thing called rejection and how to never be rejected again. But again, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Keep that in mind. And by the way, for future quotes of the day, I want to get you and fellow listeners actually sharing a quote of your own that's meaningful for you. So if you have one that you really love, maybe you got it hanging up on a poster somewhere, drop me an email. You can send it to, let's use this one, smartcalling. Should be easy to remember. smartcalling@gmail.com. smartcalling@gmail.com. Give me your quote, and then I'll reply back to you, and we'll talk about how you can just simply record that and send it over to me. All right. Thank you again so much for joining me. If you're getting value and useful sales and prospecting ideas, would you please share this with your network? Share the link on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever else you hang out. Email it to colleagues. Also, give us a 5-star review, and please do comment on iTunes. Make sure you're subscribed to this podcast, and I invite you to grab a free copy of my ebook of 501 sales tips, and you can get that at my blog, smartcalling.com, smartcalling.com. All right, go out and continue to make it your best sales week ever. I'm Art Sobczak.